Good morning. I'm Max, and I work here.
I'm Max.
I work at the Lodge in Wyden and Kennedy. Now, I imagine there are a fair amount of you here this morning from a creative background. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And I imagine there might even be a few of you here this morning from a tech background too. Well, the Lodge, we exist at the intersection of you two. We are a creative technology group. And we're fairly new to Wyden too. We came to be only a few years ago. And ever since then, we've been trying very hard to match the creative legacy of Wyden and Kennedy. And we've been trying to match the quality of craft and level of emotional impact of this legacy. And it's been a humbling adventure, to say the least. Because we're trying to do this with a whole new tool set of technology that even as designers and engineers, we find ourselves feeling inadequate sometimes. So in classic Wyden fashion, we end up experimenting a lot. And so what does this experimentation look like? Well, when you walk into the Lodge, which is just right upstairs, by the way, you'll find yourself accosted by gadgets and technology. There are VR developers wearing headsets, and they're swatting at imaginary things in the sky. 3D printers hum along, almost in unison, to make a somewhat trippy robotic melody. There's even a sketch pad that when you draw on it with a Sharpie, it'll make music. And if you're lucky, you might spot a robot running around. And it will stop, it will say hello, and it will ask you, the human in the room, for help. Now I'm gonna tell you more about this stuff in a minute. But I'm going to do my best this morning to make this talk inspirational for you too. Well, you may just find it completely irrational too. And I want you to take all this with a grain of salt because at the Lodge we are still trying to figure out what we do and how we do it best. So in other words, we're completely winging it. Now I want to talk to you this morning about the idea that sits at the heart of the Lodge. And this is to express the joy in humanity in being curious about the world. And I also want to talk to you about social capital, what it means to us and how we achieve it. And I'm also going to talk to you about our team and their diversity of talent, diversity in backgrounds and creativity too. Because at the Lodge, we're defined by our team and the dynamics that make it up. We're a team on a mission to capture hearts and minds in a whole new way, and that's by colliding technological innovation with beautiful stories. See, we're a team of incredibly intelligent and creative people from all different backgrounds. We're about 25 people, and this is our T-shaped team. We're experimenters, hackers, designers, engineers, strategists, producers, and storytellers too. We're ex-architects. Some of us used to develop video games for a living before working. Some of us used to compose music for a living too. Some of us were fashion students, contemporary dancers, and more. And then there's me. I'm a creative tech lead at the launch. I'm perhaps the least interesting person on the team. Sorry if this is disappointing. It's about 2 years ago, I was co-running a small digital studio in Portland called Flavor. We would build and design interactive software, mobile apps, commerce platforms, and yes, digital ad campaigns too. But it was the dynamics and diversity of talent in this group that inspired me to pursue something completely different. Something that I knew close to nothing about. Something that I thought was unattainable too. That's robotics. See, it wasn't until I was exposed to robotics through this group that I realized I had an immense personal interest in it. And that I could actually excel at it too. That's what makes this team work well. It's the ability to guide and inspire you to something that you once thought unattainable. And this may be the only thing that we have figured out. Because while our team dynamics are great, they're really awesome, our process is a total shitstorm. Now I'll get to that shitstorm in a minute, and I'll go into detail. But I figured I should probably start out by showing you some of the work we've done in the past few months. I'll forewarn you again, a lot of this, or maybe all of it, will seem foolish to you. And so with that, I'll start with maybe the most foolish piece of work we've done today. This was something that started as almost an existential question to us, but that we quickly realized was an opportunity for us to explore a whole new type of interface. We were recognizing a new trend in technology, and that's that all new tech seemingly exists to make our lives easier. Human nature is to be lazy, and we go through almost comical lengths to do no work at all, no matter how trivial it may be. So we thought, what if we flip this ideology on its head? We don't create a piece of technology that makes your life easier, but it actually requires effort and help from you. So I want you to imagine that you're walking down one of the catwalks in this building, not too dissimilar from the one right up there, and you're on your phone, and you're answering an email, and you look up. And about 30 feet away, you spot a fuzzy little robot. And it's about this tall. And so wondering what the hell this thing is, you move to your left to avoid it. And you go back to answering your email. And you glance up for a moment and realize the robot has moved to your left too. And so you move to your right to avoid it even further. And the robot moves to your right. Every which way you are going, this robot is following you. And now you're only a few feet away from it, and your only choice at this point is to turn and run away in the other direction. But it stops. It stops, and it says hello.
Hey, girl.
And then it looks up at you. And it bats its single bright green eye at you. And it asks you for help. It's desperate. It needs you. It's looking for somebody specific in this building.
What has 2 thumbs and didn't do its last time sheet? David Kennedy.
This robot is on a mission to get David Kennedy to submit his timesheet. So you're conflicted. You're conflicted because you're at work and you have responsibilities. You're late for a meeting already, but this robot, it needs you. And it's so helpless too. It's furry, it only has one eye, and it has a childlike voice. This is NeedyBot. Needybot is a robot that needs help with almost everything. It cruises around the office, going floor to floor, looking for helpers. It will follow you around, it will remember who you are just by looking at you, and it will play games with you too. And ultimately, we found that putting people in a position of giving to Needybot and helping Needybot did make them happier. We also discovered that it terrified a few people too. But we know these things because we observed Needybot. We observed him not too dissimilar from how National Geographic observes animals in the wild. We'd sit at our desks when we launched Needybot, and we'd watch the logs on our terminal screens as we could hear his motors whir and his voice chirp from floor to floor. But we were nervous. We were extremely nervous. We were nervous that he would autonomously navigate himself off the staircase. We were nervous that he would catch on fire and go up in flames. But most of all, we were nervous about how people would react. And on the first day, this woman proclaimed her love for Needybot. She loved Needybot more than teen girls love One Direction. That is so much love. And so when this email arrived in our inboxes, the team, they were able to breathe a little bit easier because we knew then that it wasn't possible for every single person to hate it. And he did talk to trash cans a few times too. Actually, he developed a slight obsession with them. But it's not Needybot's fault. Because trash cans to him look human-like. He has a thermal camera and some fancy algorithms that we put in there. And so when you toss hot garbage into a trash can, he finds it irresistible, like a moth to a flame. And occasionally, actually he had a tendency to do this too, he would stare at you through the glass-walled conference rooms in this building. Usually when they were packed full of people, most likely in a very important meeting. Or maybe the Needybot, it seemed like a bunch of people trapped inside a glass cage. And only occasionally did the unique design of this building get the best of her. He didn't fall off any staircases or go up in flames, but he did trip and fall a few times. Now, there's something interesting to all this fodder, as funny as it may be. We have found ourselves, and the people who have interacted with Needybot, telling stories of our time with the robot. And this is fascinating and honestly quite unexpected to us. We're telling stories of our time with a piece of technology. When was the last time you interacted with an app? And you couldn't wait to tell somebody your story and experience of you interacting with that app. Think about that for a moment. Most likely, if you had a story to tell, it was because that app pissed you off. And it probably crashed in the middle of you doing something very important. So by anthropomorphizing this interface, giving it agency, so to speak, character, movement, autonomy, and a voice, we were able to create something that people became preoccupied with. They would tell their stories of it, even when they weren't around it outside of work, and then they'd actually want to experience it again. So beyond all these stories, we actually gleaned some interesting results from the study of the human and robot interaction too. First, we discovered that parents and children actually cared for Needybot deeply. The parents, they treated Needybot as if it were a lost child, and remorsed over the fact that they couldn't do more to help it. And the children, they treated Needybot as if it were a friend, sometimes a best friend, and in some very weird cases, first boyfriend or girlfriend. We also discovered that people really like bullying a robot. I like that you find that sad. He was locked in the conference rooms, so he couldn't get out. He was stuffed into cabinets upside down, and constantly he had stuff put on his face so he couldn't see and he'd run into things. And Needybot, he actually introduced people to one another, people who had never met before. And we also discovered that there were a few people who were cynical, that they could feel anything for an artificial thing. And especially that they'd want to help and care for Needybot, but all it took was just one interaction. And not even that. Some people, all they had to do was observe Needybot roll around and be lifelike. And they immediately felt something for it, and they wanted to help it. So now our heads are spinning. Our heads are spinning because we realize the potential of a piece of technology that has outcomes like this. You know, something that can make people more empathetic and can let you safely vent your anger and frustrations. Something that actually brings people closer together and can thwart misconceptions like that so quickly. So we made a decision over the past few weeks to open source the whole thing. And we released all the design files for free because our hopes are that people will build and create their own social robots like Needybot and realize the creative potential of it. And so through tinkering with robotics, we've found that this experience has proven invaluable to us, especially when it comes to interfaces that deal with human and computer interaction. And so as it is with most of our work, we start with hacking. And then we find ourselves on a journey of what-if questions. And for this next project, we started with a question of, what if we could make music by simply drawing shapes? And so the team hacked on it. And then they found themselves asking further, what if we could let people turn that music into personal tracks? And then even further, we asked ourselves, what if people could touch those drawings to play it, like a piano? And so we answered these what-ifs with a tool set not too dissimilar to Needybot, a pinch of interaction design, a dab of computer vision, and a whole heaping spoonful of sound design. And what we came up with was what we think is a completely new interface for digital instrumentation. And so last year, we tasked ourselves with showing up at XOXO Fest in Portland, and XOXO is all about art and experimentation. So we felt, you know, there would be no better place for us to show up with something completely new. So Ryan here, creative tech extraordinaire and super buff dude, he started noodling with some code. And he figured out how to take a webcam and recognize some simple shapes like triangles, squares, lines, and circles. And then Dave jumped in. And he turned those shapes into a melody. And just when those two had proven just enough of the concept that it was interesting, a great thing happened. Naturally, inquisitive people jumped in. People who were just interested in the work that was going on. And they had a lot of fun working on it. And this is what they built. This is SoundSketch. SoundSketch is an interactive table on which you can draw onto paper and it will turn those drawings into music. And you can also touch those drawings and play them like a piano. Now through our experiences for XOXO, we realized a few things. First, we realized that we built a massive table and it was extremely hard for us to move it. But we also realized that people found SoundSketch incredibly gratifying to use. They really enjoyed it. So we didn't want to stop working on it. And so we picked another event. This one was in San Francisco. And we tasked ourselves with showing up there with a completely new version of it. And a new team tackled a completely new team. And those team dynamics showed up again. There are two people who are just genuinely interested in the work they're doing and having fun doing it, create something beautiful. And this is what they made. It's a beautifully simplified version of SoundSketch. It's completely portable, and all it requires is a webcam and a laptop. Now, we feel that we've proven just enough of this concept that people find value in it. So the hardest parts are yet to come as we're now focused on taking this to market in some form. We found ourselves asking what if questions again. What if this could be a platform for education? What if this could teach you art and math too? Now, we do build cool shit for a purpose. And although I've shown you a few projects that we've done for ourselves, we do work with brands because we work in an advertising agency too. And so, as brands are desperately trying to connect with millennials who hate being advertised to, by the way, they find themselves seeking authenticity. In short, marketing can't feel like marketing. Inversely, authenticity can't be disingenuous. It has to truly engage a brand's customers. So Verizon, a client of ours here, came to us with a brief. They wanted us to visualize the excellence of their cell network. And the lamest way we could have done this was probably through some sort of database piece. So Grant here, who's a creative tech lead here like myself, he spent countless hours and days going back and forth with the creative advertising team. And what he came up with was something that I think is incredibly intelligent and a beautiful execution. See, Grant spent countless hours kind of fooling around in Minecraft, pointlessly. But what he discovered through his explorations was that there was this culture inside of Minecraft, a culture of innovation, where people would build functional things inside of Minecraft. Functional things like typewriters and keyboards. So Grant thought, let's build a cell tower for Verizon in Minecraft. But Grant and the team, they didn't stop there. They thought, let's make the cell tower functional and build a network. And they even went further. They said, let's bring your phone into Minecraft and make that phone functional too. And so all this felt very dubious, and I think the whole team was skeptical that it could be pulled off. But they did it. They made it real. They built the world's first cell network in Minecraft. You can make a video call to your mom in Minecraft, and your Minecraft guy would show up on the video feed on the other end. You can even take a selfie in Minecraft with a selfie stick. You can even browse the web on your mobile phone in Minecraft. So, if you ever want to measure the success of authenticity, I suggest you look no further than Reddit. Because these cool people, they said cool things. And they won a few awards and got a crazy amount of views. But it made the front page of Reddit. And that is cool. So, now that I've shown you some of our work, I feel like you may be wondering how we create all this preposterous stuff. Well, we are not a group that exists to solve the mess that is digital advertising. That is not us. We exist to invent and build and prototype for our brands and their customers. We exist to squeeze the joy and humanity out of people, all while tickling their curiosity. And our technique for this is simple. See, first we make sure that we're serving a need to the people, brand customers. We provide utility. And this is very important to us. And second, we make sure that whatever we're building is very fun to use. We provide joy. And this is a visceral reaction when you use something. Now, don't be mistaken. I am not talking about the neat little animation that turns your hamburger menu into a close button, or the sleek animation that plays when you load an app for the first time. These are important, but they're more like delightful details, and they should be taken in stride. I'm talking about what makes your app or solution desirable to use, and what makes people want to use it again and again. It's a moment when people have feelings for a piece of technology. It's a moment when people can't put it down because it's too gratifying to use. It's a moment when people squeal with glee because they can't believe that they're witnessing. See, joy is a moment of lasting impact. And it's not just the combination of these two things that make for good work. We believe there's a careful combination of the two. Because if you provide too much utility and you overserve a need, you risk creating something that feels a lot like cargo pants. Kind of bulky, frankly uncool, and not super attractive. And I apologize if anybody's wearing cargo pants. And firstly, if you provide too much joy, you risk underserving the need and creating something that is kind of ridiculous and borderline distracting. So we found there's this careful balance, there's a careful balance between cargo pants and sloth with balloons flying in the air. There's a careful balance between utility and joyful interactions to make for experiences that people will love. And we've been working very hard over the past few years to refine our process to get to this balance. And what we found is that at the heart of it is collaboration. Design and engineering, they are not disparate things to us like you might find at other companies. We believe that designing and building are equally creative processes. So our process is very iterative, with little to no phases. It is not a waterfall process. And so sometimes we find ourselves asking, when does this process of collaboration end? Well, it can go on for a while, sometimes too long, like way too long. But we embrace it, because we embrace design through experimentation. And there's an adage amongst creative agencies to embrace the chaos or love the chaos. So our process, which to me feels kind of like a shitstorm, eventually gets disrupted by a bunch of chaos. And this chaos essentially becomes the eye of our process shitstorm. And eventually, because of all the shit and all the chaos, we start to have a few arguments. And because we're human, these arguments turn into feelings of remorse. But after a while, a funny thing starts to happen. The arguments, they become constructive. The team, they become direct with one another. The respect shows up. And it becomes reciprocal. And the feelings of remorse, they subside. And this is what I call the magic that happens after the perfect shitstorm. And the results, they can be beautiful. But it's all about that. It's all about being direct, open, honest, and fearless in resolving creative conflict. And very importantly, it's about trust and reciprocity. And this is the social capital I was talking about earlier. Because without this social capital, you may find yourself sinking in a shitstorm. However, it's when you learn to captain that shitstorm, effectively proving your vessel's shitworthiness, fearlessly navigating your vessel through the storm with your crew operating fearlessly too. And you'll come out on the other side, shit-free. So, in the 1970s, a man named Dan, he worked at a paper's products company. And some of you may have heard this story before. He had 2 kids and one on the way. But he hated his job. So he did irrational things in attempts to get fired. And after 5 years, they finally fired him. And when this happened, he was surprised to learn that he was disgusted with himself. He was disgusted that he didn't have the courage and guts to quit himself. And further, he started to find that his personal world was collapsing because he had just lost his family's entire income. And so upon coming home to his wife to break the news to her, she said one simple statement to him. She said, "Something will turn up." Now this seemed absurd to Dan because he had just lost so much for them. But this statement reassembled Dan Leiden's world. His wife Bonnie had just given him the permission to fail. So there's another adage. It's a Weiden adage, and it's all over the walls here, and it's tattooed onto a few bodies too. Fail harder. And what this means is learn to fail and give others permission to fail too. Now, when I first started working here, I embraced this. I embraced it wholeheartedly. But it's starting to feel disingenuous. And this is because the tech and startup community, who have embraced a culture of failure too, have projected the meaning of success onto it. Fail quickly, succeed faster. And this is because we are obsessed. We are obsessed with success and time as a commodity. Fuck it, ship it. Ship early, ship often. Fail quickly, fail early, fail often. Done is better than perfect. Let this be a lesson to us here. Google, Apple, Microsoft, all inspiring companies, but I think that they are missing the mark on failure. Because they say that if you're not failing, you're not being truly innovative. And to me, that means that you're not trying hard enough. This was not our intentions when we put fail harder on the wall. A lot of people will simply lose their jobs if they fail, even if they work at one of these inspiring companies. See, fail harder. It's about encouraging people to do things the hard way. And to me, that means it's about encouraging people to work on and solve ideas and problems that are different than their own. It's about supporting people's efforts to work with people that may be different than them. It's definitely not about shortening the timeline to success. With the wrong mindset on failure, we risk only brushing the surface of real-life problems and creating a portfolio of these contrived attempts. Now, we should recognize that if we embrace the Silicon Valley version of it, that we could possibly risk projecting the wrong type of culture onto the industry. So I think we should start listening to our community, and we should be inquisitive. We need to be quick to recognize when we may be out of touch. As an industry, we shouldn't be narrow-minded and hold our own ideas precious. We need to push and encourage ourselves to work and solve ideas and problems that may be different than our own, and work with people that may be different than us. Make yourselves uncomfortable. Thank you.